Hope you are doing well. Today, horror incident about unseen entity or demon. A long while back, I went camping at a place here in New Mexico named Oasis State Park. Back then, my church had many kids running around, and I made good friends with one. I was good enough friends with him to be invited on a camping trip with him, his father, and his little sister. Of course, I brought everything from a Bible, why so don't ask, LOL. Spare clothes for a 3-day camping trip, a small pocket knife, a lantern, my sleeping bag, and my own tent along with basic essentials like socks, a toothbrush, and toothpaste. It probably doesn't bear importance, but I was the oldest, being maybe 12, Ryan a few weeks younger than me, and his sister around 8. I'm 19 now and just barely, so you do the math as to what year this happened in. The first day we set up our tents and proceeded to have a fantastic time. Me and my friend Ryan finished our tents and walked to a pond not at all far from our tents. The trail to it was literally next to our site. I find it important now to mention that yes, there were trees, but not like any forest. These were small, feeble trees, clearly recently planted and obviously barely surviving. I remember them faintly, as I didn't really pay attention to shrubbery short of collecting sticks, and watching out for cacti when me and Ryan explored off the trail. Anyways, like I was saying, me and Ryan had a blast. Even if we had to drag his sister around because she was bored and couldn't explore alone. We saw a pretty snake, sleek and black. I don't remember the species at the pond getting a drink. Once it finished, it shot off into the brush. Other than that, only 2 other features of this park are important. The bathroom was up a slight incline along the trail, being maybe 2 or 3 campsites away from ours. That and a bunch of sand dunes built around rocky pillars, nature pillars like thin mesas, sat ahead of our campsite, maybe 3 campsites away. Beyond those pillars was a fenced off, very flat and very dry area, if I remember correctly. The bathroom from the front of my tent was to the left, the dunes directly ahead through a badly kept trail. The first day was fine, and that night we got a campfire going, night smokes, and told scary stories. The dad told the only scary stories that night. And I'm sure the man's faith affected the gore level of the story considering we were kids. It was about some abandoned building with ghosts or something, and it wasn't very scary. I went to bed that night expecting a cold but peaceful sleep. At some point I woke up and had to pee. I didn't feel like walking all the way to the bathroom, lazy me, right? So I just went ahead and urinated on a small birch tree that sat literally 4 feet away from my tent. After that, I was back asleep in my tent. I don't remember how long I was asleep before waking up to the feeling of needing to poop. It had just rained, I could tell from a tiny leak in the tent, and I wasn't going to poop on a tree. Well, my little lead lantern wasn't very powerful, and now my shoes were outside the tent completely wet. But I needed to go, and it wasn't going to wait, so I decided to just deal with it. Like literally every tent I've ever owned, and probably every tent ever my tent had 2 doors. Not a front and back door, but a zipped shut door with a zipped shut screen door outside that. This way you can see outside your tent without leaving or having a few mosquitoes move in for the night. So of course, having heard coyote howls, I wanted to check the outside of my tent before stepping out. And also being a kid, I didn't realize how easily a wild hungry coyote could rip through my flimsy nylon screen. So I unzipped the tent door and turned on my lead lantern. For a few seconds everything seemed clear and the rain had already stopped. Welcome to New Mexico weather. So I decided it would be safe. I began to unzip the tent screen when I heard a very loud howl, like a coyote's, but much deeper. If you've heard coyotes, they can get pretty high pitched, so this was weird. It took a moment for myself to stop focusing on the weird pitch and realize that the howl sounded close, like from the pond close. I didn't even really think to turn off my lantern. I just went to close the tent flap, about a third of the way done zipping the actual tent flap shut. I hear crunching, like when you're on a pebble-filled playground and somebody is casually walking. This is because the tent sides had pebble flooring. Just a bunch of tiny little pebbles in a big open circle to make a smoother camp area. Not only was the howl odd, but the footsteps themselves were odd. A fair bit of time between each step, and it sounded like they were being dragged with each step, like claws. Well, me froze in my task, and thousands of ideas distracted me from closing the tent. Sure enough, I took just long enough for the creature in our sight to find the front of my tent. I instantly froze. For the first time in my life, my mind was truly honestly blank. Sure, I don't think things through, but I never sit and think about nothing. This thing was huge from what my crappy lantern showed. It was big and a mix of colors on the back, all ranging in random patterns of brown and black fur. It was rather bulky on top, but not like a bodybuilder, more like natural solid muscle that might have been made from lots of running. Furthermore, it was thin in the middle and had stocky legs and arms, the legs by the hips stockier than any other part of its limbs. Aside from that, I'd note that its fur was brighter than most Dogman depictions I've seen, like on the muzzle, which was whitish along the bottom. Now, I've done some research on Dogman since then, and like most depictions and descriptions, it had smaller ears and glowing eyes, most likely glowing from my lantern. If you wanted an idea to base the ears off of, they sat directly on top like a cat, trying to hear something. At some point, it leaned down and sniffed a tree before turning to me and looking me in the eye for a moment. But thing is, when it leaned down, its hind legs, I assume, made some strange popping sounds, like your knuckles but much louder. I looked into those eyes though, and I swear I've never been more afraid in my life. Have you ever looked at something, just looked it in the eyes and realized you're the prey? That primal fear that extends beyond normal fear when you realize that this thing looking back at you has all the power. That you are its prey and it has no discernible mercy. I felt that right then, knowing that no tent wall was stopping that beast if it wanted to crush my skull in its jaws. I never went to the bathroom. I know what some people are gonna say, it was just some weirdo with coyote skins or fake fur coat. It couldn't have been. The fur wasn't very thick, so I could see the muscles ripple as it moved. Plus the fur was flesh with its disjointed body. Stranger yet, before it moved off into the darkness. It lowered to all fours, and when it did this, its knees made more of the popping sound. It was the sound of bone hitting bone awkwardly in your body, I'm sure of it now. Its knees had to disjoint and slide into a different position for it to run on all fours. This is my experience, and some might call bull, but whatever. My friend and his family heard the howl but ignored it, thinking it would go away. So I know it wasn't a dream. Other than that, the next morning I had somehow held my poop all night and was only willing to come out when everybody was awake. There were tracks on the sand dunes that a ranger said were coyote, but other than that, no sign remained aside from the loud howl that scared any campers that were awake. If you ask me why it didn't kill me, I'll say I'm not sure. Maybe it was the Bible, maybe it didn't care for the taste of children. Maybe it knew the whole campsite would wake up if it tried something. So for all we know, it let me live by circumstance. Either way, that's all I got. Since then, I have been fascinated by dogmen. Other than that, giving you this story so others can learn is enough for me. I'm wanting to learn about dogmen, and if I can help others learn by sharing this experience today, then cool. If I wasn't detailed enough, then message me and I'll try my best. It's my advice, if you ever visit, remember to be careful around the river and the forest. For the spirits that are hungry for fear, always inquire about the house before move in. Keep yourself and others safe from any type of scary activity. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.